is here from GS1 NZ, and they're going to be he's going to be talking about efficiently getting products into the supermarket. So a lot of folks that are part of Digital Boost do have products that they would like to get out there and into some of these venues. And we're going to learn all about how you can do that, what kind of regulations are in place, and get really informative information so we can move forward and hopefully grow our business to the next level. Very exciting stuff. So depending on what platform you are streaming from, just remember that you can make these sessions bespoke to your business by using the comment section, the Q&A section, and the chat functions, depending on where you are. So please drop your questions into those features throughout this session so that Gary can answer them for you and you can take your business to the next level. Good morning, Gary. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your schedule.
Great, thank you. My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Well, we're really fortunate to have you because this is a piece of content that we don't have at Digital Boost. And I know that it's going to be really valuable to a lot of businesses out there that have products that they like to get into stores, such as supermarkets. So very, very cool that you're able to educate us on this. I'm going to turn off my video and let you drive, but I'll be in the background just making sure that everything's working on the various platforms. Now, tell me, do you want questions throughout or kind of at the end? What would you prefer?
I'm happy to take them as we go. No problem at all.
Perfect. Okay, great. All right.
Hopefully you can see my screen.
Well, I can see you, but not your share screen.
Okay, just a moment. Let's see if I can link in here. And
yep, once you go into presenter mode, you should be good.
Hopefully there we are.
Perfect.
Great, good stuff. Thanks very much. Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm Gary Hartley. I'm the General Manager of GS1 New Zealand. I recognise that a lot of you will probably have never heard of GS1 and or GS1 New Zealand. So during the course of this presentation, I'll go through that and demystify that for you a little bit. This morning, I'm going to spend some time with you talking about how to get your products on the shelf and online quickly and easily. It's really a story about 5 key things that I think will give you the best chance to get your products on the shelf, noticed, increase your sales, hopefully, and give you a general good presence in the online market and online marketplaces as well. I've put an agenda for us this morning together for us this morning, and I realise, again, as I said before, that some of you have not heard of GS1, so I'll explain that. I'm going to tell stories this morning, really, and I'm going to start with some wise advice from one of our larger customers about helping others get their products ready for market to be successful. So it's a story that she related to me some years ago. I just want to share with you as well. And our story is really based on 3 things. How do we identify things properly? And how do we capture the information about those products using technology? And importantly, how do we then share the product information with our trading partners? And actually, what sort of information is it anyway? So we'll go over that. Standards. Well, yep, there's standards for this stuff. And so we'll have a quick look at that. And I think we've all heard of the comment, data is king. And we'll spend some time on why that is, with some real life good examples and some real life bad examples. And then finally, I just want to summarize or conclude our conversation this morning with a short video from one of our customers who puts this all together for us. So the first thing, who's GS1? So GS1 is a global not-for-profit standards organisation. We have our global office based in Brussels. We're the organisation behind the barcode system for the world. Yeah, a lot of people call us the barcode geeks, and we've been around for around about 40 years now. We've got offices in 115 locations around the world. We serve about 150 countries, and you'll see them on the screen there. Those countries in dark blue is where we have a presence in the world. We've got about 2 million members We're a membership-based organisation, an incorporated society here in New Zealand, and we work in all industry sectors from food and grocery to DIY hardware, healthcare, transport, and so on. We think on an average day, there's about 6 billion beeps around the world with our barcodes. So we're pretty ubiquitous. And we'll come to learn through this session, I hope, that actually GS1 is a lot more than barcodes. Sure, we started with barcodes way back in about the 1970s, but it's way more than that now. The customer journey is way more than just barcodes now. And during the course of the presentation this morning, I think we'll come to understand that a little bit more. So GS1 New Zealand, again, we're a membership organisation in New Zealand. We've got about 8,000 companies that are members with us. We're an incorporated society, as I mentioned before. And we have an independent board that govern us, and our board is nominated by industry sectors. So the Food and Grocery Council have nominated someone to represent the interests of food and grocery in New Zealand. And of course, as you would expect, there are people from Countdown and Foodstuffs. We have people representing the DIY hardware sector. So that is Fletcher Building and Placemakers in particular. And really it's Placemakers that set this whole customer journey story off with us. And I'll share that with you in a moment. So yeah, we've been in New Zealand for about 40 years now, and we're continuing to grow, and I think 8,000 members currently. Shortly, it'll be closer to 9. So several years ago, we did some customer research about how easy it was for our customers to use our services and our systems to get their products to market, supermarkets and the like. How well or otherwise we communicated with our customers, and did we make it easy for them or not to get their products to market? This was quite a sobering conversation for me. The results were really clear. We could do a lot better. The lady you see there on the blue, beg your pardon, in the blue there on the left-hand side, her name is Ruth Brash. She is the General Manager of Merchandising at Placemakers, one of our larger customers. And in this interview, that is actually a photograph of the interview that I was having with her. I asked her a simple question. How can GS1 assist you as a retailer and your customers get their products on the shelf a lot faster and a lot more efficiently? And her answer was actually quite simple. She said, look, it's just too hard at the moment. Just show the customers the 5 top things that they need to know right now. That's it. Don't complicate it, make it easy, and come back to me and tell me what you're going to do about meeting that challenge. So I'm going to go through with you what those 5 things are and what I think you should focus on that will make a difference to get your products to the market faster. Establish a good relationship with your trading partners like your retailers at the supermarket, and hopefully generate a lot more sales for you, both online and on the shelf. So what I'm going to do is use this graphic to work through with what those 5 things actually are. It's simple to understand, and we're going to focus on these 3 things: identify, capture, and share. If we look at the identify part of it, that top part of the graphic there, around the world now, there's a requirement and actually an expectation from the larger retailers and marketplaces that sellers must identify their products using a globally unique number. Globally unique, but globally recognizable everywhere in the world. So no made up numbers or no using other people's numbers to uniquely identify things. So that number is known as the Global Trade Item Number, or GTIN for short. And I think this term will become very familiar with you as your journey through trying to sell your products into retailers, supermarkets, and the like becomes more part of your business. So the Global Trade Item Number, or GTIN for short, you'll see it every day on almost every product now. Yes, it's the barcode number, not the barcode symbol itself, the number that's below the barcode symbol. This is the key identifier that supermarkets, retailers, and even marketplaces such as Amazon now require their customers to use when they're uniquely identifying their products in the global supply chain and marketplaces. So the first thing you need to do, make sure your products are identified correctly using this global standard called a Global Trade Item Number, or GTIN for short. We're going to come down to the middle now of that graphic, the capture piece. So how do retailers such as supermarkets capture the unique identifier in an automated way using technology, simple technologies? Well, it's actually quite easy. They scan the barcode on the packaging. We've all seen this. But it's not just any barcode. It's got to be a globally standardized barcode, one that's been adopted worldwide by a community of over 2 million companies now. It's actually a GS1 barcode, and I'll come on to this a little bit later in the presentation as well. So there's the second thing you need to know. On your products, when you're using a barcode or have to use a barcode, use a GS1 global standard barcode symbology. So that's the second thing. So let's talk about how we share product information. We need information and computer systems that can communicate itself between sellers and buyers using what I call the sort of global language of business, a language that businesses developed about 40 years ago, over 2 million of them, so they can trade easily and efficiently with each other. And we'll look at some of these standardized product information attributes a little bit later in the presentation. We'll take a look what it looks like and how it's communicated efficiently and effectively between a supplier like yourself perhaps and a trading partner like a supermarket. So there's the third thing, reliable, standardized product information, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment as I see it. So hopefully that makes sense. Identify, capture, share. That's the basis really for getting your products on shelf and online more quickly and more efficiently with less hassle. So as I mentioned at the start, we're a global standards organisation. Why standards? And actually why global? Well, before COVID, I was lucky enough to travel around the world a lot. And one of the things that really infuriated me was this picture, or what it represents on the left-hand side of your screen. As I went around the world, it became really obvious that there's no such thing as a standard for plugs. And I know that in my luggage on an aircraft, I'm only allowed 23 kilos to take on the aircraft with me or put it in the hold. Well, I reckon I made provision for at least 5 kilos worth of plugs, depending on where I was going, just to make sure that my computer and my appliances would work in the country that I was going to. So this is really disruptive. Not only that, I think it cost me a fortune because I always lost them and I always had to buy new plugs. And so this is why global standards actually matter, as distinct from, if you like, country-specific standards or regional standards. It just doesn't work. It's completely ineffective. Invariably, it's going to cost more, and it's just too hard to work in this manner. And so I think this is sort of a really good example of what I would call standards failure. And this is why standards, especially supply chain standards that we're talking about today, well, they can't be regional, well, they can't be country specific. They need to be globally, they need to be global, so everybody understands what's going on. And coming back to this term that I talked about before, the global language of business, we need a global solution to these things. Otherwise, it's just not going to work efficiently and or effectively. So let's talk about the identify part of it, just coming back to this one. So this is the first thing that I talked about that we need to know. How do we identify things uniquely and globally so that they can be recognised and traded and accepted around the world by retailers, outlet and marketplaces? So if we have a look at the graph, we see here that we're not only identifying products, you can see them in the blue there, the item, the case, a pallet. So we uniquely identify these things using a global trade item number, as I talked about. But the other thing that we can also do is that we can also globally, uniquely identify locations or legal entities like a manufacturer, or whereabouts in the supply chain are we at any given time. For argument's sake, we're at a distribution centre. And so we can uniquely identify those things as well. But I'm only going to concentrate on how we identify a product this morning, not to overcomplicate things. So let's have a look at how this part of it is actually done. I mentioned before the globally unique identifier called the GTIN, and here's an example. And what I want you to look at is the number underneath the symbol of that barcode itself. That bit's the GTIN, the globally unique and globally recognized product identifier. So in this number, there's no intelligence built into it. It's just a number. It simply unlocks, so to speak, a record in a database that has more detailed information about that product and probably the price as well. And so when these things are scanned at a supermarket, there's no real information about the product at all in that barcode, represented by the barcode number. The number just unlocks a record on a database that points to a whole lot of other information about that product. So while I say it doesn't have, if you like, intelligence built into that number, the number does have structure though. And I just want to go quickly into what that structure looks like. So when a company becomes a member of GS1 anywhere in the world, we give them a unique number that identifies that company in our global registries. It's called a global company prefix. It's a membership number, if you like, assigned by us that recognizes that number around the world. So no other company in the world has that number. And then we come to a second part of it, a product item number. And really what this is, it's a number that identifies a particular thing. Let's just say it's a bottle of fruit juice or a can of Coke, for argument's sake. And then the last number, the very last number in that sequence there is called a check digit. This is a number created by a mathematical algorithm that validates that this whole number is actually correct and will work in computer systems. And so your shopping experience now will never be the same, because I'm going to tell you that around the world, those first two numbers are different for all countries. And in New Zealand, GS1 New Zealand is responsible for allocating these numbers to New Zealand companies, and our numbers always start with 94. And so we're responsible for the 94 numbers in the world. It means that that number has been licensed to a company by GS1 to use on their products, and 94 means that it's licensed by GS1 New Zealand. So there you go. So as you go through the supermarkets and you're picking up product and you're looking at the first two numbers, you can tell people, oh, it's 94. It's licensed by GS1 New Zealand. So let's have a look at packaging hierarchies just quickly. If you have a think about product hierarchies, it's a concept that's sort of like Russian dolls of packaging levels. We start with a single item. You'll see it there on the left-hand side, the base unit. This is a single item or a product that you would typically see on a supermarket shelf, again, like a can of Coke. And of course, we pack several things into a carton and or a case. So this is the next level of a packaging hierarchy, a case or a carton. And in this particular case, for argument's sake, we would uniquely identify that carton as identifying, say, 24 cans of Coke in that carton. And this has to be marked with a different barcode number, because essentially it's a different product than the base unit we talked about before. So it has to be recognized in the supply chain differently as well. And then we come to a whole bunch of these cartons that may be put on a pallet, for argument's sake. So we give the pallet a unique barcode number as well. So we uniquely identify that thing in the supply chain, which basically says, oh, I'm a pallet and I've got 48 cartons of these soft drinks on me, And so I'm different than a case, and you have to recognize me in the supply chain a little bit differently. So packaging hierarchies are a method of identifying different levels of logistics units, and we need them because they have different attributes that we need to know about. So that's the identify bit. So let's move now to the capture bit. So I talked about identify. Now let's have a talk about capture. How do we capture information using technologies? So we all recognize these things. They're everywhere. They're the barcode, of course. And you'll notice that while they are all barcodes, some of them look quite different sizes, different shapes, even 2D barcodes that you'll be increasingly familiar with now, such as the QR code that we see a lot on shop windows and things at the moment. This is because they're being designed to perform different functions. Some are for use at point of sale or checkout, for argument's sake, at the supermarket, while others are actually used for transport and logistics purposes. And more often than not, they're the things like cases or cartons or pallets. Some are really small too. You'll see those square ones in the middle there. And these are really small, so they can not take up so much space on packaging, especially when the packaging or the item itself is really small, and the larger barcodes don't work so well. The linear ones don't work so well on those ones. So I'm not going to explain these too much today because it can get really detailed. But just to know that different sorts of barcodes exist. And there are common ones that you need to know about, and I'll talk about those in a little bit more. So the key point to remember here, just like the barcode number, that global trade item number, that unique number that I talked about before, GTIN, is the standard for the identification. There's also standards for barcode types as well. There's a whole suite of them, and I've got them there. And these barcodes, these are the ones that have been agreed to globally by the manufacturers, the producers, and the suppliers of products in the supply chain around the world. These are the global standards. So we're adding to this global language of business that I talked about before, everyone using the same barcode symbologies in the supply chain, because it's just so much more efficient than using any type of symbol or any type of barcode. And what it means also is that the manufacturers of barcode scanners can actually now make the scanners, or they can make the scanners, so that they work with a global standard, as distinct from having to figure out, oh, what do I need to do to ensure that this barcode will go beep when it needs to? So there's a global standards for barcodes. Just become familiar with the ones that you need to identify your products, and then identify those different logistics barcodes that I talked about before, cases and pallets, for argument's sake. So let's have a look at some of them. Let's take a look at some quick examples. So the barcode symbol on the left-hand side is probably the one that you're most familiar with. This is the one that's most used at the checkout or point of sale. The barcode in the middle is a two-dimensional barcode. It's used a lot in healthcare, more so than supermarkets at the moment, but that's going to change. In saying this, these barcodes, the ones in the middle, that square one there, is being currently rolled out in Australia and in Europe and the US, but not in New Zealand yet. But it will happen. It's been rolled out by Woolworths in Australia, and Countdown, who is Woolworths in New Zealand, are looking at this at the moment as our foodstuffs. And so this will be rolled out, I suspect, over the next year. And the reason the supermarkets and the retailers are interested in this is that it can pack in a whole lot more information about a product in a really, really small space. So the information that I'm talking about is like batch number, lot number, best before date, serial number, and so on. And as I say, we'll see these starting to emerge in the food and grocery sector, maybe over the coming year. The barcode on the right-hand side is one that I'm sure we're really, really familiar with. It's the COVID QR code poster. Embedded in this poster is a unique identifier that actually identifies the location of where this poster is. And in this one, you'll see that it's the Garden Hotel in Christchurch. So this number that's encoded in there for the Garden Hotel is actually a global standard. It's a global standard identifier. It's a GS1 global standard identifier called a global location number. Now, in New Zealand, you may be familiar with the New Zealand business number. This is the number that identifies legal entities in New Zealand. This is a GS1 number that is used by MB and the Companies Office to uniquely identify a legal entity in New Zealand. So in New Zealand, we've adopted a global standard for legal entities and locations, and it's a GS1 legal entity identifier. So there's some tips about barcodes. There's a bunch of standards for these, and they're required for making the correct barcodes, including barcode height, barcode width, what data is encoded into them, how it's encoded into them, and even things like color as well. So it's a good idea to ensure that you're using the right barcode for the job. GS1 is here to help you with that decision if you need some support with that, to enable you to get your barcodes checked before you print them on your packaging or on your labels. Just to make sure, get your barcodes checked. We can do that for you. In fact, most of the supermarkets in New Zealand require their suppliers to have their barcodes checked before they will stock them on the shelves. And they will probably ask you, or normally ask you, to get those barcodes checked by GS1, just to make sure that they work and go beep every time. We see a lot of barcodes coming through our verification service that just fail. And it's really, really expensive and disruptive when those barcodes have been printed on finished products and they're ready to go, to find out that they're never going to work. It's really disruptive. So let's have a look at some of the examples of, well, actually, why doesn't my barcode work? So here's some examples here, 3 of them. On the left-hand side, you'll see one there that I picked up in a hardware store some years ago. It's really difficult for a barcode to work when they have had holes drilled into them, like you see there. They don't work normally in situations like that. You may think, gosh, how could people actually think of doing that? Believe me, it happens all the time. The one in the middle there, you'll see the barcode up the top sort of left-hand side there. This barcode has been designed actually to fit on the symbol, on the piece itself. And so essentially the barcode's a little bit inconvenient for them. So they've made it fit. This barcode will never work. It's way, way too small, and it doesn't give the opportunity for the scanner actually to be able to scan the whole barcode. And so that's never going to work either. And we get this a lot too. The can on the right-hand side there, you'll see down the bottom, this is probably a little bit difficult to pick up on the picture, but this barcode is actually metallic silver in color, and the barcode scanner, the reader, just can't see it. And so it's really difficult for the scanner to pick it up, and it's likely not to be able to work at all. And so just be very careful about the color, but also, if you like, the reflectance of the barcode. We need to give the scanner the maximum opportunity to be able to see the barcode and to be able to read it every time, first time. Here's some more. This one on the left-hand side is an interesting one. We had this barcode come through our verification service, and clearly the printing on the label didn't work quite well enough. So what's happened is that supplier has got his ruler out, and he's created 3 more barcodes with a black ballpoint pen. You may remember that I said there's a whole lot of standards that operate in the barcode symbology itself. And so grabbing a pen and creating 3 barcode lines is never going to work. And so this is a good example of a bad example. And yes, it does happen. And just lastly, the item on the left-hand side there, box of matches. The question is, which barcode are you going to scan? Because there's 2 of them on there, and as you can see, they're both different. One of the barcodes on the top there is actually the barcode for a pack of 10, which says, yes, I'm a barcode, I'm a pack of 10. This is what the packaging contains. Scan this barcode and it will tell you what it is and what the price is. The barcodes on the front there, the smaller ones, Well, actually, that's the barcode for a single packet of matches. And so the supplier and the retailer run the risk actually of scanning the wrong barcode. And if they scan the small one, someone is going to get 9 packets of matches for free. And so there's a whole lot of standards around how many barcodes you can put on the packaging and where you put them and those sort of things. So there's just some examples really about the barcode standards that you need to be really aware of. And again, if you need any assistance with that, reach out to GS1 and we'd be happy to help. I want to talk about the share bit now. So we talked about identify, we talked about capture, and now I just want to focus a little bit of time on the other thing that you need to know, the third thing that you need to know. How do you share product information with other retailers? So I'm sure today that the term data is king, or as some of my staff say, actually it's queen, it's actually true. So we know that around about 50% of people do their research online now for a product before they actually buy it. So what sort of information are the customers and the retailers actually looking for? Well, they're looking for things such as ingredients, allergens, product claims, country of origin, and increasingly, what's the packaging made of, especially around plastics. There's a lot of energy going into this now. Things like, is it compostable? Is the product recyclable? Is it biodegradable and things? And so this requirement for information and the sharing of this information is becoming really important now, especially with the supermarket retailers who want to know this stuff, because in a lot of instances, they're under increasing regulatory obligations to provide it. So rich, high quality, accurate product data really does matter now, and there's a desire for more of it, not less. In actual fact, we're working with Countdown and Foodstuffs now, in particular, who are looking to increase their data requirements. And this may surprise you. We may see that they're going to ask for up to a couple of hundred pieces of product information. And again, it's for things like regulatory requirements and consumer demands, because they want to make more informed choices and decisions about what products they want to buy and what's in it. Is it safe for me? And increasingly, those sort of, I'm going to call them climate sustainability issues that they're more interested in. So here's the tip. Make sure your product data is really accurate. Make sure it's complete and make sure it's really high quality. So let's have a look at some products, how they appear on websites. Retailer websites, and I've taken some screenshots here of some products on the Countdown website in particular, but also some others to give you an idea about the sort of quality, not only the richness of the data, but how it's presented on websites that both retailers and customers are requiring now. So here's one from Countdown. This is in their online shop. So what I did was a search for Lindau Special Reserve wine, favourite. Let's have a look at some of the data on this page. What can we see? So it's good. We can see a high quality image here. And as you can see on the right hand side, I've zoomed in so you can take a closer look at that just to satisfy yourself. So there's a reasonable product description there. Lindau Special Reserve, method traditional, Blanc de Blanc. So that gives you a full comprehensive description about what it is. On this page, there's allergen warnings, there's market claims, and you'll note down at the bottom of the page there's information says that this information has actually been provided by GS1 Product Quality Service. So what's happening now, increasingly with the likes of Foodstuffs and Countdown, they're asking their suppliers to engage with GS1 to send their finished products into GS1 so we can do a number of things. One of them is that we check the barcode to see if it works and complies with the global standard, because there's nothing more infuriating for the retailers than to have a product being brought to the checkout counter and they can't read the barcode. It's just too disruptive, and actually it costs them a lot of money. Another thing that GS1 does is that what we call scrape all the product information off the product labels and we put it into a database. And we also take a photograph of the product, and this is one of our photographs here. And then what we do is we take all of that information, a barcode quality report, the information that we've taken off the labels and the photograph, and we electronically send that to both Countdown and Foodstuffs. So they have this rich data that is synchronized with them in real time. So here's the tip then. Rich, high quality product data like the stuff that you see on the screen there, including a high resolution photo, is so important now. So I thought what I would do is compare this from the Countdown website with the same product from another website, which is obviously not Countdown. And what do we see? So the photo's good. It's just more or less the same photos we saw on the other one. But if you have a look at the information on here, the information is really minimal. There's no allergen information. There's no marketing claims, unlike what we saw on the other website. And so what we have here is that customers are going to make their buying decisions based on the information they see. And if we take the example of there's no allergen information on this one, and yet an allergen may compromise somebody, this is actually quite important not to have it on the website here. And so these sorts of things are becoming increasingly more important now. And so you can see the difference between having rich quality data and the importance that it makes. So let's just focus on the photograph for a minute. We've seen two good quality photographs, nice and clear, legible. So let's have a look now on a photograph that I took on another website, another marketplace website that is a little bit different than this one that we just saw. So what we have here, this is actually quite difficult to see, but this is actually an image of chocolate biscuits, Afghan biscuits. That's really hard. Two things come to mind here. This is, I don't think, really doing either the customer or the supplier rather any favors of representing their product in this way. And actually, as a customer, if I came into this website, I think that might determine if I'm going to buy this product or not. So it's pretty suboptimal and not a good look, I think, for the manufacturer. In terms of the data quality, well, there's not a heck of a lot here to look at. So as I talked about before, if data is king or queen, this is the sort of customer experience, I think, that is going to turn customers off. And this is why the likes of, especially Countdown and Foodstuffs and the major retailers are really, really set now on get your data right, make sure it's comprehensive, make sure it's accurate, and includes all of the things that a consumer would want to know about the product that they're buying. So quality data. There's a few tips there that hopefully will help you prepare yourself for getting those products online and on the shelf faster and in a way that represents you as a supplier and maybe you as a retailer to sell that product in the best possible way. So let's have a look now at how the data is shared between suppliers and retailers, not only in food and grocery really, but other sectors like healthcare, DIY sector, and others. And I want to introduce you to a service called the National Product Catalogue. I don't want to get too overwhelming or technical here, but here's a simple diagram of how product information, especially between suppliers and retailers in the New Zealand food and grocery sector, share their product information electronically. So this is a system that's used by Foodstuffs, Countdown, ITM, Placemakers, Mitre 10, Ministry of Health and the like to share product and price information between their suppliers and themselves. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that we have a supplier community, and they are required to load standardized product data into this online catalogue called the National Product Catalogue. That's the thing sitting in the middle there. The catalogue at the moment, it's got about 150 fields in it where the suppliers are required to load some mandatory, some required, some not required data into it depending on the retailer. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the users of that information: retailers, healthcare providers, distributors, and the like. And so this information is shared in an electronic and automated way between the suppliers and the users of the data. The retailers now are preferring electronic methods to share data because they need to ensure that the data is accurate, is complete, and it's always up to date. And most importantly, there's a lot of what we call validation rules built into this tool, which means that data will not be accepted in this environment unless it has been verified that is correct and complies with global standards. So sending product information to retailers now by emails or faxes or PDF, it's no longer acceptable to them. It's just too inefficient and too error prone. And it's the same for product photographs. Retailers now are pushing back on images that are being emailed to them. Again, it's just too inefficient. They have to have too many people in the back office receiving images by emails. They would prefer an automated online system that synchronizes photographs with them continuously rather than emails and the like. So there's a tip really. The trend is that suppliers will be asked to start sharing product information with retailers in an electronic form like this. And so, yes, standards here are important as well. So this is the share component. I just want to give you a quick, brief look at, what sort of data is it? This is a glimpse really of what sits inside this thing called the National Product Catalogue. And I'll get you to focus on the right-hand side of this. What you'll see there is the data fields in this catalogue that the suppliers are asking for. So you'll see the very top line there underneath the image of this particular product. Well, there's that global trade item number that I talked about before, that unique number that uniquely identifies that thing. And again, not only at the unit level, but at the pack level as well. And there's a whole lot of other information that you can see there on the right-hand side, describing what that product is and the attributes that that product has. And it's these sorts of things now that the retailers are increasingly requiring. And so here's a glimpse of the type of data and the standards that this type of data has to comply with in order to be able to synchronize with the retailers. So I'm going to try and bring this all together now. And show you a really quick video from one of our customers who has gone through this process with the retailers, called Prodotti d'Italia, about the sort of things that they have gone through using these standards, the identify, capture, share part of it with their retailer community. And I hope you get the idea at the finish of it that standards matter, quality of data matters, and the standards are really important now. So here we go.
Prodotti d'Italia is a New Zealand company in the market since 1992. We are very focused on bringing the best products possible from Europe, specifically at the moment from Italy and Spain. And we import this product to New Zealand with a lot of passion and love because it's our heritage and we love to share it with New Zealand consumers. The benefit of using Product Flow are great for us. I use the full service where I request to do all the collection and loading of the data for us. I found it that is very effective also compared to the cost. Doing this way, we are sure that the data are standard to the retailer requirements. So once we present the product to the category manager and they approve the products, they easily can pull the data from national catalog, and we are confident that the data are correct. We use also the photography service, which is very important because it brings standards to the image of our products. And I'm an online shopper as well nowadays, being my life very busy with family and work. I realized that having the right pictures on the product, on the retailer website, high definitions is very important. I don't even look at the product despite maybe having a good price if there is no pictures. So I think it's fundamental for us. The customer is very informed and want to be more informed and they are looking for the information. So it's very important to have the correct information available for them on the packaging or online. Or definitely I recommend to any big supplier or small supplier to use product flow, because for us it's been very beneficial, a big improvement in the flow of the procedures in getting the product range to the supermarkets. It's not a cost for us, it's more of an investment because we save money in other departments, and it's been great.
So hopefully that was useful. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and open for questions if there are any.
Perfect. Oh, that was so informative. So much information there. I could see people watching on the various channels, just kind of chiming in. There was somebody who wanted to ask a question on YouTube, but they haven't seemed to drop that question in the chat. So I'm not really, if you are out there and you wanted to get your question answered, now would be the time. Don't miss out. As far as the other channels, I can see that folks are tuning in, but no questions just yet. So we'll give people a little bit of a chance to type, because sometimes we are, we're listening intently. So can I use, say, a USA barcode in New Zealand? Do the first two numbers matter?
What a great question. So we're a global organization. So essentially what that means is that the GS1 numbering system works anywhere in the world. And so obviously we have a lot of customers that are importers or distributors and the like. And so they don't have New Zealand licensed barcodes on their products. In the case of the question, they would have North American barcodes on them. Absolutely, they work.
Perfect. Now, I did want to let everyone know, okay, are GS1 the only company that supplies barcodes in New Zealand? Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the answer is that we're the global standards organization around the barcode network, if I can put it that way. However, you can go online and buy barcodes from what we would call barcode resellers, which are not part of the GS1 global organization. And so it would be misleading of me to say we're not the only organization in the world where you can buy a barcode, but we're the only, we're the global organization for the barcode, if I could put it that way.
Nope, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. And I do want to let everyone know that we do have another session coming up with GS1 New Zealand, and it's also, we have a session coming up with Amazon, and I know that you guys work quite closely together in the UK. So we're going to be talking to Amazon about getting your products out in Australia. And I'm just going to have a quick look and let people kind of type a little bit there. We've got a session with Richard from GS1 NZ about product visibility on a global online marketplace. So these sessions are really informative. We're so happy that you guys have helped us out there. So when doing a label pack update of an existing product, will it need a new barcodes or to record new details?
So the best way to think about this is that in creating a new product, is it different enough to be different than the one that you're creating from the existing one? So we have things called, I talked about the standard, the global trade identification number. So there's a whole lot of rules sitting underneath the standard about when you need to assign a new barcode to a new product. Why might that be? And the sort of things might be, oh, we're increasing the weight. We're increasing the size of the package. We're putting new ingredients into the product now that we didn't have it before. And so it needs to be recognized in the supply chain as, oh, this is a little bit different now than what we had before. So it needs to be identified differently. So the answer to the question is likely, but not always. Have a conversation with us about what we would call the barcode number rules are.
Okay, perfect. Okay, if same product but pack redesigned, do GS1 need to update the picture?
It's advisable because you know, again, the rule really is the consumer likely to notice a difference between the new product and the old one? And if the answer is yes, have a think about that then in terms of how you want to represent that in the marketplace. Some of the other things might be if the new packaging has declarations on it or certification marks on it or regulatory marks on it in one way or another, then that's a fundamental difference really between that product and the old one. And so normally we have to provide for that in the form of not only a new GTIN, by the way, new barcode number, but also very likely a new photo of it as well.
Okay. Oh, that's so great to know, because I think that, there's nothing worse than trying to get yourself out there and then it's not packaged correctly. And then, in some way it fails or it doesn't make it to market or something like that. We don't want that happening. Yeah.
I think the thing is, if in doubt, ring us up. And frankly, I'm not bothered if you're members or not members of GS1. Our interest here is helping businesses make sure that they get their products to market faster, safer, first time, every time. Just reach out to us and we're happy to help, even if you're not a member.
Awesome. Oh, that's so great. Do you have a number you want to put in the chat, or like an email or something that you want to pop there in the chat that people can contact, or should they just go to the website? Is that the best method?
So I'll give you, in the chat, I've just put our 0800 number there for you.
Okay, fantastic. I was just going to go to your website.
Those New Zealand companies, just reach out to us and we'll help you do this. And yeah, GS1NZ.org, GS1NZ.org is our website number.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to grab it right now and I will pop it in on every platform so that you guys have it. Another question that's just come through is the barcoding and data entry service expensive?
It depends. It depends. The way that we price most of our services is it's based on the size of the company. What happens is that our pricing for a small company is different than a pricing for a really, really large company. And the reason being is that we don't want to disenfranchise companies from participating in the supply chain. So the answer to that, not trying to avoid the question, it depends what your total company turnover is, and we base our fees on that. For example, a company who has an annual company turnover of between $0 and $1 million a year in New Zealand, the membership fee is $370 a year.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I think I'm just waiting to see if any more questions come through. I'm sorry if I look like I'm not paying attention. I'm just jumping from platform to platform. It's a little bit like that on this. There's lots of capabilities, but one of them is not that I can look at all the chats at one time. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be us for today. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, Gary. And we're looking forward to another session with Richard coming up next month, and how that's going to kind of tie in with our Amazon session. So it's all happening here at Digital Boost. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I know some of us, it's a short week, so it's been a flat out. So go ahead and take a break this weekend and try and get out in the sun if you're around it. Thank you so much for saying thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.